What if the story you've been living wasn't yours, but one that was handed to you, written by trauma, shaped by pain, narrated by fear, or edited by shame? You see, today on the Dad Nation podcast, I'm going to help you flip that script, and we are going to dismantle the cycle of self-sabotage. You're going to take the pen back, and you're going to start writing a future that you can actually be proud of, because you are not your past. You are the author of what comes next. And if you don't pick up the pen and take control of your story, your past will keep scribbling chapters you never asked for. Welcome to the Dad Nation podcast, the place where high-performing men are empowered to reclaim their home, their health, and their happiness while enhancing their career success. You see, in a world full of noise, burnout, and mediocrity, we believe what's missing is courageous and compassionate leadership in the home, because when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. You see, this isn't just a podcast. It's a movement of men who refuse to settle for less in our families, our focus, and our future. We are curse breakers and we are legacy makers. And I'm your host, Mitchell Osmond, and I'm honored that you have chosen to invest your most valuable asset, which is your time with me today. Now let's get into it. All right, y'all, I am so excited about today's episode because I'm going to be giving you a framework that I've designed, and I use this with my coaching clients, with my community, and it is powerful. It has changed the way I live, the way I think, and I know it's going to be powerful for you. I'm going to give you a bunch of tools and takeaways at the end of the episode, so stay tuned to the end. I promise you, if you apply what I teach you today, there can be so many things that will change for you. Okay, so let me start that again from where I started this off, because I want to say that one sentence one more time. You are not broken. I feel like somebody needs to hear this today. You're just living a story that someone else started writing for you. You see, for most men, life doesn't feel like a blank canvas. It feels like a pre-written script. I know it did for me, and it still does for me sometimes. But we're just trying to survive the next scene. You see, we constantly replay moments of shame, like that fight we lost control of, or that conversation we avoided, or the kid who looked up to us and we let them down. You know, we rehearse old beliefs, like you might say to yourself, I always ruin the good things, or I'm not cut out for leadership, or maybe I'm not meant to be happy. You know, and eventually what happens is we start to identify with that pain, and this is where the self-sabotage begins. You see, you're not wrestling with behavior, you're wrestling with a story that you're believing. And I love this study that was done, and it was published in the Clinical Psychology Review, where researchers found that unresolved childhood trauma is directly correlated with higher levels of self-destructive behavior in adulthood, including addiction, emotional suppression, and relational instability. And I tell you what, and for men, the stats are staggering. 60% of men report feeling emotionally shut down once a week. 1 in 3 men admit today that they don't feel safe being vulnerable or honest, even with their closest friends. And nearly 80% of suicides are men, and it's often linked to emotional isolation and unresolved internal scripts. What we are talking about today is so important. Richard Rohr says pain that is not transformed is transmitted. And for most men, without even realizing it, are transmitting pain that they never gave themselves permission to transform. You see, you don't have to live that way. There is another way, okay? So let me bring this a little closer to home for you guys, because I want to tell you about a story where I lived out a script that I didn't write for years. So I don't think I've ever told this story on the podcast, actually. So y'all are going to learn a little something new about me. But when I was 16 years old, I went to high school. When I was in high school, I signed up for a choir class, okay? I don't even know why I did it now thinking back. But I sang for a couple classes, and my choir teacher pulled me out of the class. And I'll never forget, he pulled me around the corner and he said, listen, Mitch, you can't sing. And I'll never forget the words he said. He's like, I have no use for you. in this class. And he encouraged me to sign up for computer sciences or gym or something like that. From that day on, I was convinced I could not sing, right? Now, crazy story. I ended up, I was always a guitar player. Went to college. A lot happened in between that time, but went to college and I was like, I'm going to study guitar. I'm going to become a rock star. I was dating a girl that heard me sing, and she said, you've got a really good voice. And I'm like, no, I can't sing. And actually, and so she just kept at me. And then there was the choir conductor at the college that I went to. He had heard wind of this, and he pulled me aside, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to sing in this choir." And I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm just here to play guitar. Just give me the guitar parts. I'm not interested." And he's like, what is your deal, man? You have a great voice. I've heard you sing in the back of the room," kind of thing. Anyways, long story short, he offered to give me a couple free voice lessons. Within my first voice lesson, I completely fell in love with singing. I was 2 years into my degree in guitar, so I ended up doing a double year, and then I ended up double voice. I ended up switching majors into classical voice and graduating with a degree in vocal performance, right? Majoring in classical music, singing in French and German and Italian, running my own lesson studio, and ended up leading, music teams and hundreds of volunteers in one of the largest churches in the country. But I was told that I couldn't sing, and I was convinced that I couldn't until years later, another conductor had to really help me debunk that lie that was said to me. And there was something psychological about a new choir conductor that helped me erase that limiting belief and that lie that I was believing. And when he did, it was like instantly, something unlocked and I fell in love. And so that, it's interesting, because I believe that I couldn't change. I believe that this was just I was just never going to be able to sing. And deep down, I kind of always wanted to, but I love this quote from Brene Brown. She says that the most dangerous thing a man can believe is that nothing can change. But here's what changed everything. I realized that the voice I had been listening to for so long wasn't mine. And once I stopped listening to the old script, I could start writing a new one. And that's what I want for you today, my friend. So you're probably hearing that. I'm like, oh, that's fine and good. But how do you actually change your story? And I'll tell you right now, it's not with empty affirmations. It's not with fake hustle. And it's not by pretending your past mistakes don't hurt. You can change it through this framework that I've created called the author's advantage. And it's a mindset framework that, like I said, I use it with my coaching clients, and it's built on 3 truths: that you can reshape your past, you can refocus your present, and you absolutely can rewrite your future. Here's the thing. Most men live like this: the past into the present into the future. That's the direction they see life moving. Okay, so what happens to them determines how they live now, and that limits what they think is possible. So let me take that down on a lower shelf for you. Okay, let's lay it out. You see, the mistakes and the lies, the trauma from the past affects how they respond in the present. Okay, it affects their decisions. So they limit themselves, they self-sabotage, they doubt themselves in the present, which then massively affects their future. Thus, they end up torpedoing their dreams, their relationships, or maybe not really going for it like they knew they should. If you're honest with yourself, there's probably something you are passionate about that you're not going for in your life because deep down you're afraid of what failure might look like. And if that is you, keep listening. So really what happens is your past affects your present, and your present limits your future. But the people who understand this author's advantage, they understand that they can flip the script. So let's get into it. What we're going to do is we're going to flip the model on its head. We're going to start with the future, move to the present, and speak to the past. Okay, we're gonna go backwards here, which is the real, I think, in my opinion, it's the best way to live. What they do is they choose where they're going, right? They start with the future. They get a clear picture of who they want to become. They let that future version of themselves dictate how they live in the present. They let their they let their vision for the future determine their daily actions in the present, right? Then they make their past serve their purpose, not sabotage it. They extract the lies, the trauma, the pain, and they process it and they find purpose in it and bring it into alignment to serve their future. I love this quote from Craig Rochelle. He says, "The only power the past has over you is the meaning you keep assigning to it." So let's break this down, okay? This is the 3 steps. Number 1, we're going to start with the future, okay? Stephen Covey in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, chapter 2, begins with, it's called Begin with the End in Mind. You know, Napoleon Hill, one of the most famous thought leaders of our time, always talked about beginning with the end in mind. My funeral story, if you know mine, when the minister asked the question, "Are you living a life worthy of imitation?" and I was faced with the end of my life, I began with the end in mind. And you know what? Let's just push pause for a moment, because I want to tell you a story about Alfred Nobel. And I think I told this in episode 1, but maybe you didn't listen to episode 1 if you're a newer listener. So I'll keep it short but it is powerful. Hey, brother, if you are listening to this show, you've most likely built a successful career. You handle pressure, you lead teams, and you get results. But when was the last time you really connected with your wife beyond the calendar, the kids, and the to-do list? Well, if that sounds like you, I have a free gift for you today called the Connection Code, which are 50 questions to break the silence, spark the fun, and bring the fire back. These questions are going to help you learn what she truly desires from you, to break out of the routine and to rediscover fun, and to spark deeper passion and connection without forcing awkward conversations. Listen, most men assume their wives feel loved, but the best husbands ask great questions and keep the connection alive. So if your date nights feel more like board meetings, and if you've gone from soulmates to roommates, and I want you to download this connection code for free and start the kind of conversations that bring you closer tonight. You can grab your copy at dadnationcode.com/code or hit the link in the show notes below. All right, let's get back into it. Alfred Nobel obviously is maybe it's not obvious, but he is the founder of the Nobel Peace Foundation, created the Nobel Peace Prize. All right, everybody knows him as a man of peace. But very few people know that actually what he was famous for and where he made his money was by inventing something called nitroglycerin. And if you don't know what nitroglycerin is, it is dynamite. Okay. Now, at that time when he was living, dynamite was known to be the thing that was it was like the biggest weapon of war, and it was killing the most people on earth at the time. It was an incredible invention. He made a lot of money off of it. Anyways, at one point his brother died. Okay. And then the local newspaper got the names mixed up, and in the obituary they said that Alfred Nobel died. And so what happened is the editors wrote an obituary for Alfred Nobel but it was really his brother who died. So anyways, Alfred gets up the next day, and on the front page of the paper was a big title that said, "Dr. Death Dies." Alfred Nobel was one of the only people on earth that was immediately faced with the legacy that he left far before he died. And it was a sobering moment for him, so much so impacting that he sold everything. He dedicated his entire life to pursuing peace. He created the Nobel Peace Foundation and then started the Nobel Peace Prize. And get this, when he passed away, he gave all of his money away or invested it all into the foundation because he had so much conviction that he needed to do this. Even his own family took his lawyers to court because they wanted to get his wealth, but he was so determined to rewrite his story and his legacy because he was faced with his future. He began with the end in mind, right? And here's the crazy thing. Most people are clear on what they don't want, right? But most of us are painfully vague on what we do want, right? We say things like, I don't want to fail again, or I don't want to lose my business, or I don't want to lose my family. But that's just like trying to drive with no destination and wondering why you're exhausted. Here's the thing, friend, if you're listening today, vision is not optional. It is required. Okay, there's a passage in the Bible from Habakkuk, and this is where God is Habakkuk 2 verses 2. God tells Habakkuk, the prophet Habakkuk, to write the vision and make it plain. Okay, the Hebrew word for plain here means to make it clear. Okay, now, and famously, King Solomon wrote in Proverbs 29:18. He wrote, where there is no vision, the people perish. It's a very famous verse, right? But here's the interesting thing. The word for perish in Aramaic means to be empty or vacant. Okay, so said another way, without a vision, your life could be considered empty and void. All right, so here is your challenge if your life feels empty and void. I want you to take 1 hour this week. No phone, just a pen. Okay, remember, we're picking up the pen. I want you to write out what you want your life to look like 3 years from now. I call this the mission map. Okay, and I simply want you to answer this question. Okay, so if I was to bump into you in an airport 3 years from now, and I was like, brother or sister, man, bro, how the heck are you? And you responded to me, Mitch, this has been the best 3 years of my life. The question I'm asking you today is, what would have to be true about your life in 3 years from now for it to be the best 3 years of your life? And I want you to get painfully specific, okay? Write it like a movie scene in your head, like, that scene where the car is driving into the sunset. But be very, very, this can be a very visceral exercise. Some of these questions you can think about. What kind of parent are you? What's your relationship like with your kids? What does your marriage look like? What does your health look like? How much do you work out? What do your finances look like? What's your net worth? What are you doing? Like, where are your kids going to school? What are you doing for fun? How much do you work? What does quality time look like for your family? What does your house look like? How are you treating your body? What does peace feel like for you in 3 years? Are you peaceful? Get very, very specific, okay? And I want you to write it in present tense. So, for example, I am clear-minded. I lead with strength and compassion. I train my body. I work out 3 times a week. I have an in-home gym. My marriage is an incredible place. We go on a date night once a week. I have quality time with my daughter and my son. I am writing a story that I am proud of. This is a script that is worth living into, okay? So here's the thing. If you don't decide your future, your past will do it for you. So stop waiting to feel motivated and start acting like the man you want to become today. So what we're going to do is we're going to shape our daily actions, right? This is the next step. Step number 2, we're going to look into the present, because you may have a vision for your life, but vision without action is simply just a fantasy. You see, your future needs to show up in your present. And if your future says, I'm grounded, I'm kind, and I'm strong, but today you're blowing up on your wife and you're checking out with the bottle, or you're ignoring your kids, that's not authorship, that's autopilot. Okay? So I want you to start small. Think habits, not heroics. We're not changing the world here. Small commitments. Maybe it's simply texting your wife, thank you for dinner tonight, or I love you, or I'm so proud of you. Maybe it's getting out of bed and training, hitting the weights, even if it's just for 20 minutes. Maybe it's journaling before bed instead of scrolling until midnight. I hope you're not triggered by that last one. Here's the thing. James Clear says, and you heard me say this a million times because I love the quote. He says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." You see, small edits create better chapters, and better chapters create new stories. Now, the third step to this is to reframe your past to serve you. And this is exactly where most men get stuck. They try to outrun their past instead of rewriting it. But you see, you can't change what happened, but you can change what it means. You see, we all have toxic scripts that play like reruns, like tapes going over in our head, okay? And there's 5 that I've identified, and I'm going to identify them for you today. And you may wrestle with one of them, 4 of them, or all 5 of them. And they're scripts that hold us back. They're lies that we believe. They're insidious mental scripts we recite like lines from a movie. All right, let me know which ones you hear. I know I've struggled with all 5. Hey, brother, does this sound familiar to you? Maybe you're powerful at work, you're respected, you're competent, you're driven, but when you walk through the door at home, you feel like a stranger. Maybe your marriage feels distant, maybe your temper's shorter, your body's softer, and you've been stuck in this loop where you're showing up for everyone except for the people that matter the most. I know that pain because I lived it. And that's why I created the Dad Nation Coalition, which is a 1-year, high-level coaching community for career-driven men who are done settling for success in only one area of their life. Inside the coalition, we don't just talk about growth, we build it. You will create a life that your wife wants to be a part of. You'll become a father your kids look up to. You'll wake up proud of the man staring back at you in the mirror. And here's the best part, you won't do it alone. You'll be surrounded by a brotherhood of men who will challenge your excuses, sharpen your edge, and celebrate your wins like family. In the DNC, you're going to get 12 months of bi-weekly coaching calls with me and the other members of the coalition. You're going to get a customized fitness and nutrition plan designed for your specific goals, and exclusive access to my flagship trilogy called The High Performance Husband. You're going to get a one-to-one mastermind with me where we build your blueprint for success in every area. And lastly, an invitation to our exclusive annual mastermind and retreat. So if you're ready to rebuild your body, reignite your marriage, and rise up as a high-performance man of purpose, then apply today. Go to dadnationco.com/DNC or hit the link in the show notes below. All right, now let's get back into it. The first one is, I'm not smart enough to fill in the blank, right? The second one is, it's too late to try something new. And here's the thing about this one. It's an easy way out to say that there's not enough time. But the truth is, you will never have more time than you have right now. I love the old Chinese proverb. The best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today, right? Number 3, the script that we often play in our head, the lie that we believe is that if I fill in the blank, this is what's going to happen, right? So you're pretending you can read the future. Telling yourself what will happen is arrogant. It's a cop-out, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what tomorrow holds. So it's not valid. Number 4 script we believe is, I don't have enough resources or connections or time. And this is similar to the I'm not smart enough excuse. But you got to understand that by leveraging the power of, the RAS and neuroplasticity. I mean, we talked about this before. You can change the way you think. You have access to resources. Tony Robbins says our greatest challenge today is not our lack of resources, but our lack of resourcefulness. We have resources all around us, right? But we're just lacking resourcefulness. Number 5, the step is, if I do blank, people will judge me. All right, and this script is the most insidious of all, okay? This is the fear of judgment and the fear of failure. You're letting an assumption of what someone may think hold you back from the life, the marriage, the career, whatever, of your dreams, right? You're giving your power to people for no reason at all, okay? Okay, so given these mental scripts, given the fact that we're believing lies, and if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, I don't believe any lies, Ding, ding, ding. That's a lie you're believing. All right. This applies to 100% of us today. I'm going to give you a framework that I built around even this part here, how to rewrite the lies that you believe. Okay, it's just called the clear thinking process. And the word and it's 5 steps, right? C.L.E.A.R. Okay, I want you to grab a pen, I want you to write this down or bookmark it or whatever you want to do to remember this, because this is huge, you guys. Number 1, C, call out the lie. Okay, so the statement is, the story I'm telling myself about blank is, and now I want you to go into as much detail as possible. Be honest with yourself, right? Remember, it's just a data point, or just it's currently the way you see things, but it's going to change, right? It could be that I'm just an angry man, or that I'm too far gone, or that I've missed the moment, But here's the reality. It's not a truth. It's a tape. And it's time to push pause on that tape, okay? So call out the lie that you're believing. Number 2, L, locate the source. Okay, so the statement might be, the people that have started or reinforced this story are, right? Maybe that lie came from a parent, a friend, a high school bully, a colleague, a boss. Could be anyone. But it's important that you name it, because when you name the source, you break its power. Okay. All right. Number 3, E, evaluate the cost. This one is huge, you guys. Ask yourself this question. What has living by this lie cost me? Right? Is it cost me my peace, my confidence, my marriage, my relationship with my kids? Or another way you could write this is, the results I'm getting from telling myself this story are, it's important for you to feel the weight of this, not to shame you, but to get leverage to change it. Evaluate the cost of what living out this lie has meant for you, has cost you, right? So then number 4, A, right? Affirm the truth. Okay, this is where we're going to flip the script. This is where we write a new statement that is more true about who you are. And so you might want to ask yourself, what else could be as true, if not more true, than this story that I'm telling myself? And this focuses your mind and helps you get curious and helps you wonder about what you don't know. And don't overthink it. Just write down any potential realities that might exist. So, for example, you might, for me, it was like, well, maybe I can sing because this conductor is telling me I can sing, and he's got a master's degree, and this girl said I could sing, and I sang in my church growing up, so maybe the other guy was wrong, and then eventually, the thing that I write is, I can sing. I have a great voice. I will finish my degree. I will be, fill in the blank. I mean, there was other lies that I believed. That I'm not an intellectual, that I'm not smart, And so I would write out, I am an intellectual. I am focused. I have much to offer this world and those I love, right? So we want you to root that in your faith, in your calling, in the vision that you wrote earlier, that 3-year vision. And then the R, step number 5, stands for reinforce with action. Okay? So we don't just say it, you live it. So what's one action that you can take this week to prove this new belief to yourself? You might just ask the question, what are the 3 to 5 negative thoughts or habits or people that I need to eliminate from my day-to-day life? What are the things, the people, the habits? Take action, right? Because it's important to understand what needs to be eliminated from your day-to-day life to make room for new habits, to make room for new truth, to make room for more people that are going to help you in this journey, right? And so maybe some actions might be journaling every night, with the Power Hour. Remember, I don't know if you heard episode 50, the Gap Trap, I walk you through an exercise called the Power Hour, which is obviously powerful, but it's an incredible exercise that can help rewire your subconscious mind. Maybe it's sending, a gratitude text to your spouse, or apologizing to someone you hurt, whatever. Take actions, okay? Because actions, small behaviors reinforce new beliefs much faster than big promises. Big promises are hard to keep. And usually we got to where we are because we weren't keeping promises, right? Now, for a lot of reasons, neurologically speaking, which I'm not going to get into today, there are so many explanations as to why this works. But for the sake of the time we're going to move on. I love this quote from Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says, "When you act like the man you want to become, your brain starts to believe you already are." Friend, if you took this one framework seriously and applied it to your life, the author's advantage, your past, your present, and your future would drastically change. This is the work that so many men avoid. And this is why they stay stuck. They stay trapped, reliving the same mistakes, the same frustrations, and inevitably living the same year over and over again until they die. It happens all the time. Men wake up 20 years later and they're no longer happy and they don't know what happened. Mark Twain says this quote, and I love it. He says, "Most men die at 27. We just bury them at 72. Wow. That is so true for so many people these days. We die to our dreams. We die to our ambitions because of the lies that we believe. And then we just coast and we live this passionless, purposeless life. And we don't get buried until we're 72. All right, so that is the 3-step process, okay? Listen, friend, I want to encourage you with this today. If you don't pick up the pen, your past will keep writing your future. But if you do, everything changes. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to take authorship. You are not your worst mistake. You are not an old addiction. You are not the voice that says, "This is just who I am." You are the author. And the next chapter starts today. So what's my final challenge to you? I want to give you some questions to consider as we wrap up this episode. Ask yourself today, what would my next chapter say if I believed I could truly change? Another way of asking that is, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Seth Godin asked that question. It's brilliant. Another question is, what small edit can I make right now? Another question is, what lie do I need to rewrite so that I can finally live free? Write it, live it, and if you need help, don't go it alone, all right? Remember, the lone wolf dies alone. The strong wolf builds a pack. You are not alone on this journey, but you are the author. So that's all for me today. But listen, I want to hear from you, okay? This gives me so much joy to know that these things are resonating with you guys. So what was a big takeaway for you? What was a big aha moment for you? What's something that you are going to take action on today? I want you to leave it in the comments, or even just send me an email if you want. I don't care. Mitchell@dadnationco.com. And listen, if this episode shook something loose inside of you, I want you to share it with a brother. Who else in your life needs to hear this episode today? Because you and I both know that there's someone coming to mind who could really benefit from learning this framework. So send them this episode. And listen, if you're ready to totally flip the script on your life, join us in the Dad Nation Coalition. All right, the link to apply to be a part of the community is in the show notes below. You're going to love it. All right, it's going to change your life. All right, friend, that's it from me. Listen, pick up the pen, okay? The chapter starts now. You can do this. Thank you for tuning into the Dad Nation podcast today. Listen, if today's conversation challenged you, if it encouraged you or helped you level up in any area of your life, would you do me a favor? Take 60 seconds to rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening on. This helps us reach more men who need to hear this message. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Dad Nation YouTube channel, where you're going to find full episodes, clips, and exclusive content designed to help you win at home just like you do at work. All right, remember, your family does not need perfection. They need your presence. Your leadership matters. So keep showing up, keep leveling up, and never forget, when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. We'll see you next time.